It's time for the Social Show with Viwe Tyolwana.
Social Show? Social Show.
Very warm welcome to the Social Show. My name is Viwe Tyolwana, and for the next 30 minutes, we're going to be talking all things CSI, CSR, as well as shared value. Of course, this doesn't just encompass those things. We're speaking about every single thing under the sun that has to do with doing good, corporates doing good, individuals doing good, young people doing good, entrepreneurs doing good, people who are really trying to get us where we need to be in order for us to envision, not just envision, but live out our Vision 2030 goals, our sustainability goals, and all the other goals that come with it. Of course, if you have anything that's happening in New Horizon that you'd like to share, or you'd like us to discuss with you, or you want to just have a candid conversation around what is it that we're missing in the CSI space, please send me something on our social media platforms, on either Band Live or Social TV, that is on Twitter or on our Facebook pages. Of course, I will be on always on Facebook, but I do think that people could share a little bit more what they want to do. I think it's important. Of course, today is Tuesdays, so you know exactly what the lineup is, and if you don't, stick around and you'll know straight after the news.
CSI Update.
Uber Eats recently visited various locations in Cape Town and Johannesburg as part of their Give Back campaign to treat modern-day superheroes who were on duty during the festive holidays while we were busy resting away. As part of this giveaway back campaign, the Uber Eats team visited the Johannesburg Children's Home, ER24 Paramedics branch in Bryanston, DARG and Animal Rescue Centre, and a fire station situated in Cape Town CBD. In other news, a joint technical team is inspecting the effect of the outbreak and looking for further measures to come up with a comprehensive containment plan. This is after they warned stock that farmers need to guard themselves against an outbreak of foot and mouth disease in the Vembe region of Limpopo recently. Spokesperson for the Agricultural Department, Kaye Nkwanyana, said the department was informed yesterday of the positive laboratory results for foot and mouth disease in cattle in that area, and he said samples were collected during a disease investigation after reports of cattle with lameness were received. Nkwanyana said the location of the outbreak was just outside the FMD control zone, where animals had not been vaccinated. The department also said that FMD is a severe, highly contagious viral disease which affects livestock with significant economic impact. The disease, according to the department, affects cattle, pigs, sheep, goats, and other cloven-hoofed animals. And lastly, in our news, the Explore Data Science Academy is launching an online course and a series of data science competitions aimed at making job future skills available to the South African high school students. From 11th of February 2019, students from grade 10 to 12 can access Data Science for High School online program, which teaches the fundamentals of data science and exposes students to a Python programming, data visualization, and some basic machine learning algorithms. Although the course is purely online, the instruction material is supplemented by videos and assessments to help guide the student. Regular testing will advise learners of their progress and provide necessary feedback. Commenting on the relevance of the course to high school students, Dave Strungle, EDSA co-founder, says South Africa's youth should be learning data science skills from as early as possible, and in many countries these skills have been introduced into the syllabus at primary school level already. And that concludes our news for today.
What kind of things does a child deserve to have in his or her tiny hands? Probably a candy or a toy, or even better, a book and a pen. But what if this pen gets replaced by a gun? Imagine the horror of violence and abuse children are facing every day, and the kind of future we are building for them. In fact, 300,000 children are still working as militants in conflicting areas all around the world. They did not have a choice, but you do.
When you've been around for almost 150 years, you operate in 197 countries, and you sell millions of products a day, you have opportunities. and responsibilities. A responsibility to respect people and the environment, to do the right thing, to be transparent. That's why we've asked you how we can be a better business. We've listened to what you said and taken action. We turned your feedback into 38 commitments, a set of commitments you can hold us accountable to, that we apply across our business. Sourcing, manufacturing, packaging, marketing, consuming. We've already come a long way, but this is just the beginning. We know there will be challenges, and while sometimes we might surprise ourselves, we won't always get it right first time. But we're determined to do more and to share our progress with you. To find out how we're doing, visit Nestle.com.
Well, as you know, every single Tuesday we come and we speak to someone who is in social entrepreneurship or is trying to get into it or is successful into it in the space. It's growing phenomenally all around the world. It is, for me, one of the biggest, most beautiful ways in which we can uplift our communities and make money. And I think a lot of young people are really finding their way around it. In fact, there have been a number of social entrepreneurs who have been allocated by different organizations and been seen by different organizations to be doing a really great job and really making it really feasible and I think inspirational to a lot of young people. In fact, I know Forbes last year had a 30 under 30 social entrepreneur, and usually they have sort of like a successful business or something like that. But I think the social entrepreneurship angle was a little bit more interesting for me. I think it's important that we do sort of look at what's going on, and I wonder what their how they got the people together and what was the sort of benchmark that they used, because I know that Africa has a budding social entrepreneurship spirit that is really growing. So today I'm just going to speak to a few of the social entrepreneurs that are in the space currently that were looked at last year, and then we're going to see if we can't get them on the show in the next coming weeks. But it's very important that I do put a nice sort of big background on the people that are doing amazing stuff and what social entrepreneurship is. And if you don't know what it is, it's basically really just trying to find a way to solve community's problem, but also not necessarily, being an NGO. So you are a business, a working business, but you are working with people and making sure that it's sustainable and that it creates jobs, or whatever it is that you feel like in your community can be solved and you can make money. That's what social entrepreneurs do, and it's something that I'm also quite heavily interested in. Anyway, I'm speaking too much as usual. So Forbes had their 30 under 30, and I'm going to speak a little bit about them. Those that were featured on the site. On the site, and I think it's very important that we do give them the plaque. All of them are under 30. All of them are doing great things. At number one, we had Yuja Chan as well as Watson Yim. Watson is 24 and Yuja Chang is 27, and basically they are working to expand mobility and independence for blind and low vision individuals through personalized high-tech services under advisors like Dean Carmen and Lawrence Gunther. They've raised about 16 million in funding for their work, which I think is phenomenal. I always say so much more can be done to make this the world a better place for people who are blind or have low vision or have any kind of physical disability. I definitely think that more can be done in this space. I know that Microsoft is doing a lot. I know that Avis is doing a lot. I know that even Uber has gotten into the mobility space, and it's very beautiful to see people as young as 24 looking at this space as a space that is viable and that's going to change the lives of many, but also one that they can really make money in, and I think that's not a bad thing. then you've got Alberto Altamirano, who's 28, and he's the co-founder of City Flag. Now, City Flag is looking to transform the quality of life in cities using a social network for 311 services. The civic technology platform makes it so that citizens and governments can be more transparent in working together to improve communities. So again, we've got a great project that really wants to put people together and not make civil society feel too far or distanced from government, so that more can be done. Again, a phenomenal one. I think he's second. And then we've got Jack Amend, who's 26, and he's the founder of a web neutral project. Now, Jack is tackling a little known source of carbon emission, the internet. The web neutral project, similar to the LEED or the Energy Star, works to reduce the carbon footprint of the internet through a comprehensive carbon neutral certification program. And so far, they have already eliminated a production of over 300 metric tons of carbon dioxide, and I think that's beautiful. I didn't even know that there was a whole movement around making the web a little bit more neutral. You see, and you also learn a lot when you find out about what people are doing, and hopefully can also inspire you. And then we've got Ellie Pollack, who's 28, as well as Earl Sentsova, who's 26, and they are co-founders of the Apollo Agriculture. Ellie Pollack and Earl Sentsova are working to bring modern farming technology to the 50 million smallholder farmers across Africa. Now, it uses the technology uses agronomic machine learning, remote sensing, and mobile phones to provide the complex data and analytics necessary to maximize profits. What I love about entrepreneurship in general is that entrepreneurship, for me, when I think about it, is really just, if you're not selling a product or selling something, if you're not in that kind of space, it's really just about convenience. And if you apply that logic in your social entrepreneurship idea or business proposal or whatever it is that you want to do in social entrepreneurship, how can you make things convenient for those who don't have much? How can you make things a little bit easier for them? How can you make life easier so that more people can get involved? And I think that's where it starts. And I think there's been a great I know last year I was in a great seminar from the IE Business School, and they have a great a course which is around moving from startup to scaling. And one of the lecturers was speaking a little bit about how important it is. I don't even know how important it is. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. But he was speaking about how amazing social entrepreneurship is growing and how much funding it's getting and how much more interest it's getting from the corporate space. And I think that's what's happening in South Africa too. You know, a lot of corporates are looking at people with smart ideas that have holistic end results that are going to make sure that the country is going to be better, and you also as a young person are getting what you need to get out of it. So I think it's very important that we do speak about social entrepreneurship, and that's why I always want them here in the show, speaking about their projects, speaking about their downfalls, speaking about their challenges, but also advancing the conversation from just downfalls and challenges, right, but also moving into what is it that is going to allow us as human beings to realize that I think social entrepreneurship is the pinnacle of what's going to help Africa, right? If we have more young people looking at how to strategize and look at how they're going to shorten the gaps and improve access and make sure that people are you know, we create new ways of living, new systems of living for the have-nots. Basically, we really could tackle the issue that we have as a country in a shorter space of time. So I always tilt my hat at our social entrepreneurs. Of course, as I said, Ellie Pollack and 28, who's 28, as well as Earl, are the Apollo Agriculture team, and I think they're doing fantastic, especially because Africa, you know, we kind of work well with mobile phones, so it makes sense for them to sort of make sure that everything sort of works on a mobile phone, not on a fancy expensive gadget. Then we've got Erica Banks, who's 29, and she's the co-founder of Beacon. Now, Erica founded Beacon while working as a patent policy analyst at Google. The Google-funded organization is working to transform Washington, D.C. into a model city for an inclusive ecosystem that supports women entrepreneurs. I think, again, I think a lot of people are now moving away from the word inclusive or inclusion. although understanding it in context, understanding that there are machines in place and corporations in space that just don't have a diverse and inclusive aura in them, and because it's really difficult to change the entire ship and change the entire organization, inclusion in that context makes sense. But I also think that now we're not necessarily looking at inclusion as the way forward. I think the way forward is creating newness and making sure that it doesn't just include people, but it also, just from the beginning, from the ground up, it has enough space for everybody. Because I do think sometimes when you include people, you're not necessarily looking at whether or not your system is viable for that inclusion. And we're not trying to include, we're trying to make sure that people are integrated. We're trying to recreate the way we think, the way in which we facilitate our jobs, the way in which we think about things. So I always sort of have a little bit of when people talk about inclusivity, but these are conversations that are going to be happening when I have my guests back on the show, and we're going to be really delving into what it means to be included and what it means to not be included but to recreate, which is what I think 2019 is going to be about, honestly, when it comes to social entrepreneurship, when it comes to access, when it comes to getting more people involved. We're not talking about just inclusivity alone. We're also going to talk about recreating spaces. And then we've got Arpit Dupar and Kushagra, who are 22 and 25 respectively, and they're the co-founders of Shakar Innovations. Now, Shakar Innovation has created the first system to capture harmful emissions from diesel generators. The innovative technology captures and particulates and converts pollution into useful products like inks and paints. Again, a beautiful project. I love things that are recyclable or recycle or convert. Because I think it's an ongoing space. It's not a space that you're constantly going to need anything much. You're just going to have to make sure that whatever it is that you're trying to convert is converted, and then you're trying to sell the rest of it out. And I think, again, what's great about social entrepreneurship is that a lot of big businesses really want to team up with them, not only because it does well for them in terms of like what the kind of help that they're giving to young entrepreneurs, but it also does well because they have this holistic idea of like really a 360 moving machine. And I think big businesses need that and want that. So it's great to partner with them also from a corporate perspective, because then you get to learn a little bit about how you can change your organization and make it a little bit more sustainable and a little bit more accessible to the community, and a little bit more integrated in the kind of goals that we have set for the future. Then we've got Gator Halpin, who's 27. You've got Sam Taker. The names are chopping me because it's like not my kind of names. So it's Gator Halpin and Sam Taker, who's 27, both of them are 27, and they're the co-founders of Coral Vita. Now, Sam and Gator are restoring the world's dying reefs, which support up to 1 billion people through food, coastal protection, and income. Their system quickly grows resilient coral in land-based farms and transplants them into damaged reefs. I also wanted to ask, actually, if you're listening and you're an entrepreneur, how many of you, if you haven't really looked at yourself as a social entrepreneur, and in some level I could say that most entrepreneurs are social, because anybody who's providing jobs for people is on some level socially aware of the fact that there's a need for people to be employed. But if you are an entrepreneur right now and you've been working 5 years and you are selling a product and it's doing well, and now you can see that there's a huge task force of social entrepreneurs growing, how many of you are now starting to change your focus a little bit to make it a little bit more social? I think that's something that I'm seeing a lot of. I think that there's sort of like an attraction when someone speaks about social entrepreneurship. There's a sort of like pull in that is great for a lot of social entrepreneurs, and I don't mind the switch as long as it has integrity, and you're not just saying you're a social entrepreneur, not really doing the work, or changing to a social entrepreneurship space and not really doing the work. I think it's really important that if you are going to sort of transform your pitch, the way in which you present yourself in the world, even though you probably have had a growing model, but you're also seeing how incredible the social entrepreneurship space, and you really want to get into that I wonder if any of you have been feeling as though you need to change and need to adopt or adapt into this space, because it's really doing very well and it sounds great, and it sounds great, you know. So I wonder what entrepreneurs, this traditional entrepreneurs, are thinking about social entrepreneurship and whether or not they are going to integrate their work within that. I'm just going to finish off with the lady. Her name is Lisa Curtis, and she's 29, at least I can say her name. And she's the founder of Kuli Kuli. Now, Lisa discovered moringa, an edible nutrient-dense plant, while a member of the Peace Corps in Niger, inspired by the power of the tree to provide both nutrition and sustainable livelihood for smallholder farmers. She founded Kuli Kuli, which partners with over 1,000 farmers across Ghana, Haiti, and a few other countries. Enabling these farmers to tap into the American market has provided more than 1.5 million in income to women-led farming cooperatives, non-profits, and family farms. She is not playing games. I think this is an amazing entrepreneur. She is doing amazing in terms of access, and I think sometimes this is all we need: partnering and collaboration. They've been speaking about it for years, but this to me is one of the best ways in which it works, is when, even though you know that moringa has been around for a while in spaces in Niger and Ghana and, you know, Haiti, and these spaces have been working with it and selling it locally, but it just needs somebody who's outside of that to really push it towards the other barriers and really open up more markets to these farms. And I think that's important. And I love the fact that she's still working with local farmers, which I think is amazing. And again, women-led farming cooperatives, non-profits, and family farms. She's doing really well, and I'll tilt my hat to her. And she sort of will wrap up our show for the day. Lisa Curtis, you can find her online and find out a little bit more about what she does. But she was on the 30 under 30 for 2018 for social entrepreneurship. I wonder what's happening with them this year. I will come back and find out what's happening for them for this year, some way, somehow. But for now, we're going to take a short break and we'll be back with things to remember.
My name is Sanne. I'm a chemical engineer and I work as a process specialist at Presolid. As a manufacturing company, we are very concerned with ensuring responsible consumption and production. Therefore, we continuously invest in new technology that reduces our environmental impact and increases the energy efficiency of our production. Part of my job is to experiment with and measure the flow of the raw material. It helps us match the material and the product to minimize waste in the production.
We're back on the social show, of course, and this is the time for social Wow, this is the time for things to remember. I'm so sorry, I'm all over the place. But things to remember, obviously, when you hear that sound, you know that it's time for things to remember. We've got a short clip we're going to play. Then we're going to have a small chat straight after that.
Today, with social and economic inequality growing worldwide, millions of people are connected by the idea that it is possible to do business on a human scale. That it is possible to make money and do something good for the community. That idea is called social entrepreneurship. Social entrepreneurship is a new and creative approach to business, social engagements, and social services. Today, there are numerous organizations operating worldwide and in our country that we call social enterprises. A social enterprise is just like any other business. Its work is charged at market rates and it generates profit. What makes it a business on a human scale is the way that profit is used. Profit serves to fulfill clear social missions. Social enterprises do not serve to enlarge the wealth of their owners or shareholders. They operate in order to contribute to social equality and to improve the living conditions of people in the community. Generated profit is reinvested in the business or in realizing social goals like job creation, social inclusion, cultural needs, healthcare, and preservation of the environment. A social enterprise places social goals ahead of increased profit, uses business as a means of social change, resolves social problems through market strategies. Social entrepreneurship is also a good way for civil society organizations that want to reduce their dependency on donor assistance and gain greater financial and operational freedom. Starting a social enterprise is a challenge for all those to whom profit is not the only goal, who want a job that makes sense and has a purpose. Visit www.sense.rs and find out all about social entrepreneurship. Sense, Social Economy Network Serbia.
Okay, that was just a short video of really fundamentally scrutinizing what social entrepreneurship is. Just start off the year. I hope you all have. I do think that everybody could potentially become a social entrepreneur in their community in some way or another. I think even if you're not making as much money as you would like, I definitely think there are noticeable gaps in your space that you could potentially fill if you have some sort of income and you could start something. So I hope you are inspired to start something, and I hope in the next few weeks when we start speaking to more social entrepreneurs and we start getting them on the show, start having these conversations, that you listen in and you take down notes and you start your own organization. There can never be too many social entrepreneurs. If you are inspired and if you feel like it's something new you should be doing this year, I definitely would recommend social entrepreneurship. Of course, this brings us to the end of our show. It's been brilliant. I hope you have a beautiful day. I'll be back again, same time, same place. Social